friends. So I have an order for a sunflower tutu. So I thought I would go ahead and take you through the process, start to finish, on how I make my ribbon trimmed tutus. So let's get started. And the way I like to do it personally is I like to go ahead and get the ribbon cut and burned before I even start the actual tutu itself. So the first thing you need are your supplies. First things first, you need a 12-inch ruler, and then you need a little clip which just holds the ribbon onto the ruler, and then you need your ribbon. I use 7/8 width satin ribbon. It can be double-sided or single-sided. It really is just preference. I use both. It really doesn't matter to me, but this one happens to be double-sided. So then to burn my ribbon, I use this here that I buy at Walmart. This has been the easiest method for me personally. A lot of comments I get are to use a wood burning tool. I actually have one of those. I tried it. It takes so long to measure out each piece of ribbon just to singe and cut it at the same time, because you are cutting about 240 pieces of ribbon per tutu, and that seriously takes forever when you cut each one individually and measure it. So this is just the simplest way for myself. And then I use a dowel rod and a couple big bags of marbles, which I'll show you in a minute, just to hold my ribbon in place as I'm wrapping it around the ruler. So when you are wrapping it around the ruler, you want 6-inch strips. So when you're wrapping it around the ruler, you're getting 12-inch strips. So the way I do it is I attach it here, and then I wrap it. This is one wrap, and then I wrap it around 10 times. So wrapping it around 10 times, and the reason why I only do it 10 is because it becomes real hard to cut the ends, because it just becomes too thick and then they become uneven. So I have learned 10 times is the best. So you're gonna cut, after you wrap it 10 times, you're gonna cut this end, then you're gonna cut this end. And then you're gonna have 12-inch strips, so you're gonna fold it in half, cut each side. So every time you wrap it 10 times, you're getting 40 pieces of ribbon. So when I do a tutu that is all one color, like the one that I'm doing, I go ahead and I do 6 wraps, which will be plenty for one tutu, and then it'll leave me some extra for my next tutus. So it just, you just keep building them up. But I've never cut exact amounts with ribbon because I like to cut my ribbon first. Okay, so like I explained, I like to use 2 big bags of marbles. So what I do is I take my ribbon, I have the underneath this way, so it's going to unwrap from the bottom. I put this through my ribbon, and then I use my 2 big bags of marbles to hold each dowel rod. Now, of course, you guys will find your own way of being able to do it. You will find something that works for you. And then you guys will have your own method, and then you just do it really however way you want. This is just the easiest for me personally, and I want to show you so that if you can't figure out a different way to do it, then you can just do it this way. So I am going to go ahead and wrap 10 wraps. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So once I get it on the 10th time, I go ahead and disconnect it. I am going to pull one of the ends of ribbon off. I like to kind of squeeze it to crease it. And then I take a sharp pair of scissors and I cut straight across. And then I'm going to do the same thing. Of course, this end will come off a lot easier because the other end's already cut. And then I'm going to cut it. I am going to find the middle fold it in half, and then cut. So this here is 20 pieces of ribbon. I'm going to do the same thing for this side. So I have my first set of 40 pieces of ribbon. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and keep cutting. Now this is a single color tutu that I'm making. So if I were making 2 colors, or 3 colors, or 4 colors, I definitely wouldn't be cutting as many ribbon. If I do 2 colors, then I do 3 sets of each color, and so forth with more colors. I just, this is a single, so I go ahead and I do 6 sets of 10 wraps. So that's what I'll do right now. Okay, so now that I have all of my ribbon cut, I am going to go ahead and burn the edges so that they don't fray because if you do not burn the edges, you're gonna get a bunch of strings on the ends of the edges as you're sewing them. It's just not gonna look pretty. So you definitely wanna make sure you burn your edges. So how you burn your edges is up to you. You can literally take a lighter and sit there and hold it and burn each one. I find that that is awful on my fingers. So my husband actually came up with the idea of why don't we keep a flame going. I first thought of let's use little tea lights, and then he came home with this one day, and this has been the best thing ever. I have, like I mentioned before, I have a wood burning tool. I tried using that. That took so much time. It just wasn't worth it. So I buy these little things here. They're for camping to keep your food warm. And they have worked out great. So I definitely keep using it. So you only have to swipe it just a couple seconds, and if you're unsure of it, you just want to feel the edges, and you can feel if they are burned correctly. They'll have like a little bump on the edges, and then also if you put your fingers on the edges and it starts to fray, then you know you need to do it for a little bit longer. So it does take some time to singe the edges, but you have to singe the edges. You don't want to hold it in the flame too long because then it curls your ribbon funny and then it makes it hard to sew. So you just want to do each piece. So I'm going to go ahead and speed it up and do each piece, and I'll be back. So I have just completed burning all of the ribbon. So now we're going to move on to the next step. So the next step is the waistband. So we want to go ahead and make the waistband. So what I use is, this is by CT Craft. I buy it off of Amazon. It comes in rolls. It is called an elastic crocheted headband. It comes in a 2-pack of these rolls here. So the width is 1 1/4 inch. So the size that I am making is a 12 to 18 months. So I am going to cut this at 13 inches. So I get my ruler. I measure it at 13. And what I personally like to do now, when you measure it, you do not want to stretch it. You want to keep it just like this. Don't stretch it. So I put it at the end of the ruler. I cut it at 13 inches. So now I have a strip just like this. So I'm going to take this over to my machine, and I am going to sew a line at the very edge, and I'll take you over there. Okay, so I'm over here at my machine. You are going to just sew the tippy edge of this together, just like so. I like to go all the way across first, and then go back, and then I just go back and forth a few times. I just like to make sure it is very nice and secure. Okay, so I have just sewed my waistband. So I'm just gonna cut any strings, and I'm just gonna cut the very edge off so that it's a nice clean finish. And then you have your waistband just like so. Okay, so this is when some math skills can come in handy. All right, so now you need to figure out how many holes that you have in this waistband so that you know how many pieces of tulle to cut. So what you are going to do is you're going to take the bottom, which it really doesn't matter which is the bottom and the top. So you're going to figure out which side you'd like to have as the bottom. And you are going to count each hole, just the bottom row. You're going to count just the bottom row all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead and count this one. I'm going to start at where I sewed it. I'm going to start on the right side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. So on this particular waistband, I have 35 holes on the bottom row. So each single row has 3 holes. So if I have 30, I'm gonna do my math right here. So if I have 35 rows, I'm gonna take that, times it by 3, which gives me a total of 105 holes on this tutu, which means I need 105 pieces of tulle for this tutu. So you're gonna take 105, which I am going to go ahead and round that up to 106 so that I know I'll get an even amount. So I will actually be cutting 106 pieces of tulle, so I'll have 1 extra. But the reason why I take 106 and I divide it by 2 is because the next step is cutting my tulle. And what I like to do is I have made these cardboard to the size that I like, that I use for my tutu. And I take my tulle and I clip it on here and I just wrap and wrap and wrap and wrap. So that is our next step. So I'm gonna go grab my tulle. So this method is very similar to my ribbon cutting, except you'll be using tulle. And like I said, okay, so this particular waistband has 105 holes. I just went ahead and rounded it up to 106. The reason is because I divide that by 2. Once I divide 106 by 2, I get 53. So that means I need to wrap my tulle around this cardboard 53 times, because this is going to be a side, this is going to be a side. I will be cutting both edges just like I did with the ribbon. So, and same concept with the ribbon. With the ribbon, I wrap it around 10 times because it becomes too thick to cut it. So with my tulle, I only like to wrap it around 30 times because it's the same concept where it just becomes too thick to cut it. So I need to wrap this 30 times first. So let's see if I can get this high enough here. So 1, 2, all right, so I have done it 30 times, so I'm just gonna disconnect this here, cut this top part off, and then I am going to cut one of the edges straight across, just like that. Unclip this side. Oops, grabbing my ribbon out here. And I'm gonna do the same thing for this side. Just gonna cut it straight across. And then when I am flipping them off of my board, I want to make sure I keep them in the same direction. So I took the top off, I'm going to flip it around, and then I'm going to take the bottom and make sure that I put it the same way. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the rest here. So I've already cut 30. So I'll start my count at 30 and make it to 53. 31, 32, 53. So I'm actually going to have one piece of tulle left over. I could have just stopped it at the halfway mark, but I normally don't, and then I'll save it for my next tutu, or if one happens, like as I'm sewing it, I check and make sure there's nothing that's dirty or anything like that. So if I have an extra one, it actually sometimes works out. So I'm gonna make sure I put it on there correctly. So I'm gonna take the top one off, make sure I put it on the top correctly. So now I have all of the pieces of tulle that I will need to make this tutu. So the next step is, what is the this is the most time consuming part of the tutu, is sewing it. So I'm going to get set up at my sewing desk, and I will take you through how I sew the ribbon onto the tulle. So when you are sewing ribbon to your tulle, you're actually going to be sewing it upside down. So you want the thread that's in your bobbin, that is going to be the top. So you are actually going to be seeing the bobbin thread that will be on the ribbon. So that will be on top. So for my sunflower tutu, I use a dark gold thread so that it really stands out nice. But I don't have any of it rolled, so I'm going to go ahead and roll some real quick. Alright, so I just got that rolled out. So I'm going to go ahead and snip that. And then load up my bobbin. So for your top thread, you know, it's your choice. It's the underneath of the ribbon. For lighter colors like the golden yellow that I will be doing, I just do white or off-white, just depending. This one I will actually just be doing white. But if I do a dark color like dark purple or black or brown or anything like that, then I will go ahead and do a black for the underneath. So I am just going to thread up my machine here. And this machine here, I just bought, and see I put some eyes on it. So I have some company when I'm working. It gets a little lonely sometimes. But this machine here I bought last year. My machine was quitting on me, and I usually would only buy the cheaper machines. I mean, I say cheaper, but they're still a couple $100. They're still good price. But this is a PQ 1500 SL. It's a brother, and it is an absolute beast. It's only a straight stitch, which is all I need, but she is absolutely amazing. So let me go grab my tulle and ribbon and we'll get started sewing that. Okay, I'm gonna do my best here with the angles and everything that I have. All right, so I have some ribbon here. I like to keep it right on the inside of the machine, just keeps it for easy access, and then I put my tulle right in front of it. So you want to sew these things upside down, and the way that you know is by the curve. So you can see, if I can straighten all these out, here, let me just grab one piece. So you just have one piece of ribbon. See how it curves like this? This is your underneath. So it will be curving up. That is your underneath. And it is the same way with the tulle. It curves in a direction. You want it to curve up. that is the underneath as well. Okay, so we're going to take the ribbon, we're going to put it right underneath. I personally like to have, you can really do it any way you want. I mean, it's truly up to you. You can sew it down the very center of your ribbon. You can sew it toward the end or toward the top. I prefer to sew it right at the top. Okay, so the way that I like to sew it is right at the top of it. So I have my, let me get a close-up of this so you can kind of see it. Okay, so as I was saying here, I like to sew it right at the top here. So you can sew it however you want. You can sew it in the middle of the, I'm sorry here. Okay, you can sew it in the middle, you can sew it on the edge, you can sew it at the top. I personally like to sew it at the top, and then I will take my tool and I will put it right underneath here to where it pretty much gets to the center of this piece of ribbon, and then I will sew a line straight across. Okay, so I'm going to put my piece of ribbon on, just like I had just showed you. I'm going to take my piece of tulle and I'm going to put it right on top of that piece of ribbon, making sure that both go underneath the needle. You're gonna start sewing. So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna go forward a couple stitches, go back a couple stitches just to secure your stitch, because if you do not, it will unravel. And then you're gonna go all the way across, nice straight stitch. And then when you get to the end, you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna make sure you go back and forth once just to secure that stitch. So here's something that I do that I find extremely helpful. I'm going to keep everything connected. So you're going to lift your foot up just a tiny bit just to get your piece of ribbon under. But here is something that I personally like to do. You can take the next piece of tulle and continue, cut them all, and then switch sides and do it again. I like to do it all at once. So what I am going to do, let's see if I can move this so you guys can see it a little better. All right, so I'm gonna take, I already put my ribbon under here. I'm gonna take this piece of tulle and I'm gonna flip it to where I'm going to actually sew the next piece of it. Now you need to make sure that you are sewing the same side. So when you flip it, make sure you're not actually twisting it. So you're just going to take the, let me get you up close, hold on. So here's what I'm looking at. So you're gonna take this is already sewed. You're gonna take this and you're gonna make sure you're sewing this side here, because you wanna make sure you're sewing the same side. So you wanna make sure you're not actually flipping it like this, because then you'll be flipping it incorrectly. So you just take it and you go just like this, and you're gonna be sewing this side of it all the way down. I really hope this makes sense. It's kind of hard to describe it. Another way you could do it is just keep taking new pieces of tulle and doing it this way, then cut them, and then go back and sew this side. I find it a lot easier if I just sew it all at once. So again, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this side here, and I am going to flip it like this, and I'm gonna sew it on like that. Really hope that makes sense. If that's confusing at all, let me know and I'll try to explain it better in a different video. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and continue sewing a couple pieces and then I'll speed it up. So I'm gonna go to my next piece and I'm just gonna make sure it just all stays connected. I'm not going to cut them, I'm not going to disconnect them at all. This way at the very end, I just clip them all. Back and forth, secure your stitch. Straight across, go as slow as you need to. Back and forth, secure that stitch. Put your next piece of ribbon on there. Grab your next piece of tulle. Back and forth, secure that stitch. Stitch or two forward, put your next piece of ribbon on, flip that piece of tool. There we go. So I am going to continue doing this, but I'll speed it up, but I will keep it recording. Okay, so all of the sewing is done. You can see this massive pile of fluff back here. That's all of it sewn. So now I am going to be cutting all of it. There are a couple ways that you could do this. So now like your entire tutu is gonna be like this, completely sewn. So there are a couple ways you could do this. If you look on the side of your machine here, some will be on the side, there are some that are on the back. Mine happens to be on the side. You can take your in-between pieces and slide them right in between and cut them this way. It's truly up to you how you do it. Or you can take a little pair of snippers. This is how I prefer to do it. And I just cut them right in between. I'm just gonna move my machine a little further back. And then as I do it, I like to lay the finished pieces curved side up, so they'll be upside down onto my lap. So I will just sit here and go through, cut all my pieces. This way, I like to use the scissors, and the reason is because there are some times where I go an extra stitch too many. Like you can see this one here is a little bit long, so if I were to just cut it on my machine in the middle, I'd be left with these pieces of thread on there. And I don't like that. I like them to be nice and neat. If there are little tiny pieces, I don't mind it, but that was extra long, so I just like to get those nice and snipped. Right against the ribbon and tool. So now I'm going to go ahead and snip each piece and then get them all nice and straightened. Okay, so now that we have all of our pieces sewed, so all of our ribbon is sewed onto the tool, now we're going to actually be putting them onto the waistband. So I'm going to show you which holes we're going to be using. So we're going to start directly on the bottom row. So here's where I sewed it together. I just started right to the right. So you're going to start at the bottom row, right here. Then you're going to go directly above it to this hole here, and then you're going to go above it. So you're going to be putting 3 pieces of tulle per row. And then when you start the next row, you're going to go directly beside it. See, there's another row, another hole here on the bottom. Then go directly above it, directly above it. Then this directly above, directly above. So you're always going to start at the bottom and go directly above. There are holes that will be in between, but you do not fill those holes. You start the bottom and go up. Then you do the next row, bottom, go up, bottom, go up. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and start putting them in so I can kind of show you what I'm talking about here. So the way you're going to fold it, you have your tulle upside down, so the curve is up, the bottom is facing you. So you're going to fold it in half like this. So now it's in half. Then you're going to fold it in half, putting the ribbons on top of one another. So it's going to look like this. You're going to put your finger right in here, and then you're going to put it in. Of course, you'll start at the bottom. I've already done the bottom here, so I'm just going to go over to the second one, and you're going to start right in the bottom. You're going to put it in the hole. So I have it right inside this hole here, and you're going to open up that little hole that you'd made when you were folding it. So I have this hole open here, and then you're going to put this tulle inside of it. So essentially what you're doing is you're tying a knot, and then you're gonna pull it, but you're not gonna pull super hard. If you pull super hard, it is going to stretch out the elastic, and you do not wanna stretch out the elastic because then it won't fit the child that you're making it for. So let's do this again. You're gonna take it, you're gonna fold it, you're gonna fold it again. So now you have your little loop, your little hole, and it's folded in half. You're ready to insert it into the hole. So you're gonna take it. Let's see if I can get it a little bit closer here. You're gonna put it through this hole, just like this. You're gonna pull it through. You're gonna open up this, and you're gonna pull the bottom through to make your knot. You're gonna pull, just like this. So now when you're doing the second row, you're gonna go right above this hole here. You're gonna push it through, but then what you're gonna do is you're gonna push it through the bottom hole that you just tied this one in. Pull it through and then make your knot. You're gonna fold your tool again. So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna go above it. So you're just gonna go above, and then you're gonna come out that middle hole, pull through, pull it through this hole, and then make your knot. So you're gonna get it ready. I'm gonna go to my next row. I'm gonna put it above the hole, like here's the bottom. I'm gonna put it right above. Pull it through that middle. Tie your knot. So I'm gonna push it above. Push it through that middle, tie your knot. Let's see if I can get it a little bit closer here. So I have my folded tool. I've already put it through this bottom hole. So I'm gonna go above. I'm gonna put it in the middle hole, and then I'm gonna push it down into that bottom hole. I'm gonna tie my knot. I'm gonna go above the waistband, push it through the middle hole, and then tie my knot. I'm gonna do one more row as an example, and then I will complete the tutu. So I'm gonna go through the bottom hole, open this up, tie my knot, take my next piece of tulle, put it through that middle hole, push through that bottom hole, and then tie my knot. And then for the top one, I'm going to go above the waistband, through that middle hole, and then tie my knot. So now I'm going to go ahead and complete the tutu, and then I will show you how I put on my waistband bow. And then this particular tutu, I glue sunflowers onto the top of it. It's so super cute. And then I'll show you how I do that as well. So I've just finished putting together the tutu, and you can see just how full it is, how beautiful. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the waistband on it. I don't do super fancy bow, but I do a little waistband that is cute. So I like to put it I make sure the back is center here. And then I like to put mine on the left side and I just weave it through. Let's see if I can get a close up here. So just take it and I'm gonna push it through above it, and I'm gonna push it through one of the holes. And then I'm going to push it through this next hole here. So let me get a close up for you so you can kind of see what I mean. So I have it through this hole here, just weaved right in, and I'm gonna pull it to where it comes in even. So I'm just gonna pull it, make sure that my ends are both even. And I'm just going to tie it, which will secure it. That way there's no making the bow and then gluing it on. So now I'm just going to simply make a bow. This is a one-sided ribbon that I'm using, so I kind of have to manipulate it just a little bit just to make sure all the shiny sides. But that's it, that's all I do. I make a bow like this, and then I cut my edges. Just make sure that they're even. And then I go and I singe the end of this ribbon, singe this one, and that's it for the waistband. So this is what it looks like here. So normally this is the end of my tutu, but with this one, my sunflower one, I glue on some sunflowers, so I'm going to show that process real quick. Okay, so now that I have the tutu finished, I'm going to go ahead and glue some of these sunflowers on. So these are the sunflowers that I use. What I do is I cut this little stem off because these actually come on little fake plant thingies. So I just cut this stem off. I take some felt, I cut them into little squares, and I glue them right on back of the sunflower. The reason is when you glue this onto the tool, you want to make sure it's a nice flat surface. You don't want this little stem, even if you cut it off, it'll still have a little stem. So I am going to go ahead and place them onto my tutu before I glue them on, so I can make sure that I get the perfect spots. Okay, I like these. These look good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get my glue gun. And I am going to move this back a little bit. Move this forward. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on each one. And I'm just going to hold this up. And I usually like to hold up two together. And I just push it down. I just hold it there for a couple seconds, just to make sure it's a nice glue. And then I'm just going to go all the way around. I'm going to go grab another glue stick real quick. All right. I'm just going to all done. I pair this with cute little shirt that has a sunflower as the O. And then an N and an E. Really cute gold and yellow, and then the N and the E matches this waistband bow, which is a gold. If you want to see the full outfit, what I'll do is I'll put the link in the description. It's to my Etsy, and you'd be able to look at the entire thing. So I think I have them all glued on. Yes, I do. All right. So I'll give you a final view. Here's the tutu here. So normally I would go outside so you could see it in the natural light, but it is now 8 o'clock, so it is nice and dark. Here's all the sunflowers. So cute. You get a shot of the underneath. It is so super full. So I hope this tutorial helps, and if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. I will be more than happy to answer. And then I'll leave some info in the description. Thanks for watching.